was a crisp morning, and the Urban Serenity Cafe was already bustling with customers eager for their morning caffeine fix. Walter Jenkins, a 62-year-old waiter, started his shift like any other day, greeting the familiar faces of regular patrons. Walter, with his graying hair and kind demeanor, was known for his warm personality and dedication. He treated every customer as if they were the most important person in the world, even as arthritis slowed his steps. While rearranging the chairs near the entrance, Walter noticed an elegant black Tesla pull up by the curb. As the car door opened, none other than Elon Musk himself stepped out. The usually chatty cafe suddenly became a whisper-filled room, the air buzzing with excitement. "Is that really Elon Musk?" someone murmured, eyes widening. Walter's heart skipped a beat. Elon Musk had been an icon of inspiration to Walter, not for his wealth but for his visionary spirit and willingness to take risks. Without thinking much about it, Walter did something impulsive. He bypassed the line of waiting customers and went straight to Elon Musk's table. "Good morning, Mr. Musk. Welcome to Urban Serenity. What can I get for you today?" Walter asked, his voice filled with both awe and warmth. Elon Musk looked up briefly and smiled. "Just a black coffee, please." Walter served the coffee within minutes, along with a warm buttered croissant on the side. Elon seemed pleased, gave a polite nod, and resumed jotting down notes in his sleek black notebook. Other customers, however, weren't as impressed. A few people in line started whispering among themselves, annoyed at being skipped over. "We've been waiting for over 10 minutes, and he gets special treatment," a woman said, clearly agitated. Walter ignored the hushed complaints, believing he was making the right move, providing the best service possible to a person he deeply admired. As Elon stood to leave, he took out a crisp $100 bill and handed it to Walter. "Thanks for the great service," Elon said. Walter hesitated for a moment. He knew the cafe's strict no-tip policy, but in that instant, he decided to accept it. It was a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and he discreetly slipped the bill into his apron. What Walter didn't realize was that the entire exchange had been caught on the cafe's surveillance camera. The next morning, Walter arrived at the cafe early, as he always did, humming softly as he arranged the chairs. It was a chilly day, and Walter hoped for a warm shift, but there was an unusual tension in the air. Lucy, a young waitress, approached him with a worried look. "Walter, Mrs. Peterson wants to see you in her office," she said, her voice edged with concern. Walter felt a sudden unease settle in his chest. Mrs. Peterson, the cafe's manager, was known for her adherence to rules that were never to be bent, no matter the circumstances. He walked towards her office, each step heavier than the last. When Walter entered the office, Mrs. Peterson's expression was unreadable. She turned her laptop screen towards him, showing footage of Walter accepting Elon Musk's tip and skipping the order queue. "Care to explain this?" she asked, her voice cool but stern. Walter's heart sank. I thought it was just a harmless gesture," he stammered. "It was Elon Musk, and I just wanted to give him the best service I could." Mrs. Peterson shook her head slowly. "Walter, this isn't about who he is. This is about maintaining professionalism and respecting our customers. You broke two major rules, skipping the queue and accepting a tip. I'm sorry, but I have to let you go." She handed him a formal termination letter, her expression softening slightly. "I really wish it didn't have to come to this." Walter felt a wave of disbelief. He had worked at Urban Serenity for over a decade, and now it all ended with one lapse in judgment. He left the office with a heavy heart, the cold air outside stinging his face as he stepped out of the cafe. His coworkers tried to comfort him, but Walter could barely process their words. He sat on a nearby bench, staring at the letter in his hands, feeling the weight of his mistake. That evening, Walter returned to his small apartment. The walls seemed to close in around him, and the future suddenly felt uncertain and bleak. Had he really made such a terrible mistake by showing kindness? Walter spent hours replaying the events in his head. He thought about how much he admired Elon Musk and how he had only wanted to make a good impression. He couldn't understand why a moment of kindness had led to such harsh consequences. He had always prided himself on his work ethic and his dedication to his job, and now it all seemed meaningless. The laughter and warmth of the cafe, the camaraderie with his co-workers, and the familiar faces of regular customers. All of it had been taken away in an instant. As the night deepened, Walter's despair began to give way to determination. He couldn't let this be the end of his story. He knew he had made a mistake, but he also knew that his intentions had been pure. He decided that somehow, he would find a way to move forward. He had always been a man of resilience, and this time would be no different. He had to believe that there was still a future for him, even if he couldn't see it just yet. The next morning, Walter woke up with a sense of purpose. He started making calls, reaching out to old friends and acquaintances, hoping to find a new opportunity. He knew it wouldn't be easy, especially at his age, but he refused to give up. He spent the day updating his resume, searching for job openings, and applying wherever he could. It was exhausting, and the fear of rejection loomed over him, but Walter pushed through. He couldn't let one mistake define the rest of his life. That evening, as he sat down to a simple dinner, Walter's phone rang. He picked it up, expecting another automated response or a polite rejection. Instead, it was a voice he didn't recognize. "Mr. Jenkins? This is Brian from Tesla's office. Elon Musk would like to meet with you. Please call us back as soon as possible." Walter's heart raced, a mix of disbelief and hope surging through him. Could it be possible that his act of kindness had not gone unnoticed after all? Walter's hands trembled as he redialed the number, his mind filled with questions. Within hours, he found himself preparing to meet Elon Musk, wondering what this unexpected turn of events could mean for his future. The fear and uncertainty that had weighed him down since losing his job began to lift, replaced by a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was the second chance he had been waiting for. The following morning, Walter awoke to the sound of his phone ringing incessantly. Groggy and disoriented, he picked up the phone and noticed multiple missed calls and messages. One voicemail, however, stood out. It was from someone named Brian at Tesla's office. Walter listened, his heart pounding as the message played. "Mr. Jenkins, Elon Musk would like to meet with you. Please call us back as soon as possible." Walter's hands shook as he redialed the number, his mind racing. Within hours, he found himself at the Tesla headquarters, an imposing glass building that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky. He felt out of place, wearing his well-worn coat and scuffed shoes, but he pushed those insecurities aside. When Elon Musk entered the room, Walter stood immediately. Elon extended his hand with a warm smile. "Walter, good to see you again," he said. Walter stammered, "Mr. Musk, I didn't expect. I never thought." Elon gestured for Walter to sit. "I heard about what happened at the cafe, and I think it was completely unfair. You went out of your way to make me feel welcome, and I respect that. Not many people are willing to take risks like you did, especially when it comes to kindness." Walter looked down, unsure how to respond. Elon continued, "I believe in rewarding people who go above and beyond. So, I have an offer for you." Elon handed Walter a folder. Inside was a job offer for an entry-level position as a logistics coordinator at Tesla, with training and a clear path for growth. Walter blinked in disbelief. "Are you serious?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Elon smiled. "Very serious. And there's one more thing." He slid a key fob across the table. "This is for your new Tesla Model 3. Consider it a thank you for your dedication and spirit." Tears welled up in Walter's eyes. He was overwhelmed, not just by the generosity but by the validation. "Thank you, Mr. Musk. I promise, I'll make the most of this opportunity," he said, his voice trembling. Elon nodded. "I have no doubt you will, Walter. We all make mistakes, but it's how we move forward that defines us. You showed courage, and that's what we value here at Tesla." Walter left the headquarters with a renewed sense of purpose. As he stepped into his brand new Tesla Model 3, he couldn't help but feel that his life had taken a turn for the better. The drive back home was surreal, the smooth hum of the electric car filling the silence as Walter reflected on the past few days. It was as if the universe had rewarded him for his kindness, turning his darkest moment into a bright new beginning. Walter knew the road ahead wouldn't be without challenges. The new job would be demanding, and there was much to learn. But for the first time in a long while, he felt hopeful. He had always prided himself on his work ethic and his ability to connect with people. Now, those very qualities had led him to an opportunity he never thought possible. That night, as Walter sat in his small apartment, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. He had faced the loss of his job, the uncertainty of the future, and the fear of rejection. But he had also found the courage to keep going, and it had led him to something extraordinary. He knew there would be more hurdles to overcome, but with this second chance, Walter was ready to face whatever lay ahead. The following week, Walter began his new role at Tesla. The office was a world away from the cozy cafe, filled with cutting-edge technology and a team of bright, ambitious people. Walter felt a mix of nerves and excitement as he settled into his new position. He was the oldest in his department, but that didn't matter. He was there to learn, to grow, and to prove that it was never too late for a fresh start. Walter's journey was far from over, but he had already learned an important lesson. Sometimes, taking a risk for the sake of kindness can lead to unexpected and incredible opportunities. And as he looked out at the world from behind the wheel of his new Tesla, Walter knew that this was just the beginning of a brand new chapter in his life. Walter's life changed dramatically after that day. He began working at Tesla, surrounded by people who inspired him, people who saw his potential rather than his past mistakes. The training was challenging, and there were days when Walter questioned if he was truly cut out for the job, but he never gave up. The values he carried as a waiter, kindness, dedication, and a willingness to take risks, helped him navigate his new role. Driving his new Tesla Model 3 to work each morning, Walter felt a renewed sense of purpose. No longer did he feel the weight of regret for what had happened at Urban Serenity. Instead, he saw it as a necessary turn in his journey, one that had brought him to where he was meant to be. Walter soon found that the camaraderie within the Tesla team was unlike anything he had experienced before. His colleagues, from young engineers to seasoned managers, treated him as an equal. They respected his resilience, his work ethic, and his eagerness to learn. Walter often stayed late, studying manuals and learning from others, determined to excel. It wasn't long before he earned a reputation for his diligence and positive attitude. One afternoon, during a lunch break, Walter found himself chatting with a few of his coworkers about his previous job at the cafe. They listened intently, their eyes widening as he recounted his story of serving Elon Musk and the events that followed. One of his colleagues, a young woman named Maria, smiled and said, "Walter, you're proof that good things happen to good people. It's inspiring to see how you turned such a tough situation into an opportunity." Walter even reconnected with some of his old customers from Urban Serenity. They were delighted to hear about his new position, and many were amazed by the twist of fate. He shared his story openly, hoping to inspire others, especially those who felt life had been unfair to them. Walter knew that kindness wasn't always immediately rewarded, but he also knew that true fulfillment came from the intent behind the act, not the recognition. As the months went by, Walter grew more confident in his role. He learned to manage logistics, coordinate deliveries, and handle unexpected challenges with grace. His supervisors took notice, and he was soon given more responsibilities. Walter thrived under the pressure, drawing on the patience he had developed over years of working in the service industry. The sense of achievement he felt was unlike anything he had experienced before. One day, after a particularly successful project, Elon Musk himself stopped by Walter's desk. "I've been hearing good things about you, Walter," Elon said, his trademark smile evident. "Keep up the great work." Walter couldn't help but beam with pride. It was moments like this that reminded him just how far he had come. Walter's transformation was not just professional, but also personal. He began volunteering on weekends, helping others who were struggling to find their footing in life. He visited shelters and community centers, sharing his story and offering encouragement. Walter understood better than most that a single act of kindness could change the trajectory of someone's life, and he wanted to be that source of hope for others. Driving home one evening, Walter reflected on how different his life had become. The uncertainty and despair he had felt after losing his job at the cafe seemed like a distant memory. He no longer viewed that day as a failure, but rather as the catalyst that had led him to a more fulfilling life. He had found a new purpose, new friends, and a new sense of belonging. For Walter, this fresh start was more than just a new job. It was a chance to redefine who he was and what he could accomplish. Walter knew there would still be challenges ahead, but he felt ready for them. He had learned that sometimes the most unexpected turns in life could lead to the most rewarding destinations. And as he parked his Tesla Model 3 in front of his apartment, he looked up at the sky, a smile spreading across his face. This was just the beginning of a journey filled with hope, purpose, and endless possibilities. Months later, Walter found himself back at Urban Serenity, not as a waiter, but as a customer. He ordered a black coffee and sat in the corner, reminiscing about the life he had lived just a short while ago. He watched as a young waiter, much like his younger self, hurried from table to table, smiling at each customer despite the pressure. Mrs. Peterson noticed Walter and walked over, her expression a mix of surprise and something else, maybe respect. "Walter," she said, her voice softer than he remembered. "I heard about what happened. I'm truly glad things turned out well for you." Walter smiled warmly. "Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. Life has a funny way of working out, doesn't it?" She nodded, and for a brief moment, they shared an unspoken understanding. Both of them aware that rules were important, but sometimes, exceptions were what made life truly meaningful. As Mrs. Peterson returned to her duties, Walter took a sip of his coffee, letting the warmth spread through him. He looked around the cafe, taking in the familiar sights and sounds. The clinking of cups, the chatter of customers, the scent of freshly brewed coffee. It all felt nostalgic. This place had been a big part of his life, a place where he had learned so much about people, service, and kindness. Walter noticed the young waiter again, this time struggling with a heavy tray. Without thinking, Walter stood up and walked over to help. "Here, let me give you a hand," he said, steadying the tray as the waiter looked at him with a mix of surprise and gratitude. "Thank you, sir," the young man said, clearly relieved. Walter smiled. "I used to do this job. I know how tough it can be," he replied. The waiter nodded, and Walter could see the appreciation in his eyes. It reminded him of his own early days, the challenges, the small victories, and the importance of a helping hand. As Walter returned to his seat, he realized just how far he had come. The uncertainty and despair that had once weighed him down had given way to a sense of purpose and fulfillment. He had turned a moment of kindness into a life-changing opportunity, and now, he was in a position to pass that kindness on to others. He spent the rest of his time at Urban Serenity reflecting on his journey. From the moment he decided to serve Elon Musk, to losing his job, to being offered a new chance at Tesla, it had all been a whirlwind. But through it all, Walter had learned that life was not about avoiding mistakes. It was about how you responded to them. It was about resilience, about holding on to kindness even when it seemed to cost you everything. Before leaving the cafe, Walter left a generous tip for the young waiter, along with a note. "Keep smiling and always believe in second chances." He hoped it would bring a little light to the young man's day, just as Elon Musk's unexpected kindness had changed his own. As Walter stepped outside, he took a deep breath of the crisp air. The world felt full of possibilities, and he knew he was exactly where he needed to be. He walked to his Tesla Model 3, parked just down the street, and took a moment to appreciate the journey that had brought him here. It was not a straight path, nor an easy one, but it was his, and it had led him to a place of hope and purpose. Driving away from Urban Serenity, Walter felt a deep sense of contentment. He had come full circle, but he was no longer the same person who had worked tirelessly behind the counter. He was stronger, more confident, and more at peace with himself. Walter knew there would still be challenges ahead, but he was ready for them. Life had given him a second chance, and he intended to make the most of it, not just for himself, but for everyone who needed a little hope to keep going. Walter's journey had taught him that kindness could be a powerful force, one that could change lives in the most unexpected ways. And as he drove away, he knew that this was only the beginning of what he could achieve, both for himself and for those whose paths he would cross in the future. As we come to the end of Walter's story, it's a powerful reminder that sometimes, the biggest risks we take are the ones rooted in kindness. Walter's journey shows us that, while following the rules is often necessary, moments of compassion can lead to unexpected opportunities. Had Walter not taken a risk by treating Elon Musk with extra care, his life might have continued on the same path, and he would never have experienced the incredible turn of events that followed. Walter's story encourages us all to reflect on our own choices. How often do we hold back from doing something kind because we fear the consequences? Walter's willingness to go above and beyond for someone he admired brought him challenges, yes, but it also opened doors he never imagined possible. His resilience, his dedication, and most importantly, his compassion became the foundation for a brighter future. We'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in Walter's situation? Would you have broken the rules for someone you admired, or would you have played it safe? Share your thoughts in the comments below, or send us an email with your own stories of taking risks and finding unexpected rewards. We believe that everyone has a story worth sharing, and we can't wait to hear yours. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your perspective on life. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay kind, stay courageous, and remember, sometimes, taking a risk for the right reasons can change everything.